All right, gang, let's go ahead and modify the colors of the foreground rolling hills so that they look more at home with the colors in the background image. I'm going to press Shift-Tab to bring back my palettes, and I'm going to switch to the Layers palette right here. And notice that Photoshop has gone ahead and automatically assigned the rolling hills to its own independent layer. And I could turn that layer off in order to expose the strip malls and all that jazz, and I can turn it back on in order to cover them up. Let's go ahead and rename this layer by double-clicking on its current name, and I'll call this Rolling Hills, like so. Now I want to apply some color modifications, and just because it's handy, I'm going to go to the New Adjustments palette here in Photoshop CS4. So I'm going to click to the right of the word Styles in order to collapse that palette so I have a little more room to work. And then I'll click to the right of Masks in order to expand that palette. And let's go ahead and throw on this adjustment right there, Brightness Contrast. Now, this is a function that I would not have applied 3 or 4 years ago because brightness contrast used to be just a terrible command. But in the previous edition of the software, it got much, much better. And it's now actually a fairly terrific command under certain circumstances. It works beautifully for this image, for example. So I'll go ahead and click on that icon in order to add what's known as an adjustment layer to my layers palette. And I'm going to reduce the brightness value to -30 by pressing Shift down arrow 3 times in a row. And I want to darken up that foreground image fairly dramatically, which I have, but I've also darkened up the background image, as you can see here. So an adjustment layer will affect all layers below it. And I can change that. I can change that behavior so we're only affecting the rolling hills by clicking on this option right here. So that goes ahead and clips my adjustment to the rolling hills image so that it's only affecting the rolling hills layer and not the background image. Now let's go to contrast. I'll click inside the contrast value and I'll press Shift up arrow 3 times in a row in order to increase the contrast of the rolling hills. Once again, the background image is not affected. Now, don't get too hung up on what I'm doing here, the Shift down arrows and the Shift up arrows. I'm just telling you, for the sake of due diligence, I'm just telling you what I'm doing. But again, I don't want you to really work with me. I just want you to watch this unfold. And then later, of course, in future chapters, you'll get every bit of information there is to know about how these options work. All right, so there's the brightness contrast adjustment layer, and perhaps your first look at the adjustments palette here inside of Photoshop CS4. In the next exercise, we're going to modify the colors so that the foreground trees and the background trees match.